Welcome to the Selenium WebDriver training day 2 by 5 Elements Learning. Today we are going to talk about the concept of the Celanese commands, and we will be talking about the different types of command categories available in Selenium. Finally, we will be moving on to understanding what are the locators. That means how do we identify an object in Selenium, and we will be seeing the web technologies available to us for the locator. So yesterday when we recorded and saved our Selenium file, what we actually created was a Celanese HTML. A Celanese HTML file has got the following format, and the format is: the first column is the command, the second column is the object, and the third column is the data. So this is known as our Celanese HTML. Now the types of commands which we see in Selenium are action commands, assertion commands, and our accessor commands. So these are the three types of commands which we see in Selenium. Now action commands are those commands which change the state of the application. Okay, for example, open, click, type. These are the action commands. Assertion commands are those commands which validate the change of state of application. Example: assert, verify. These are the commands which helps us validate the change state of the application. And then we have got the accessor command, which basically help us store the changed state. Example: store text, etc. Now assertion commands are of, as mentioned above, two types: assert and verify. Besides this, there is further division to it. We have either a text-based assertion or a object-based assertion. Okay, so we either have a text-based assertion or we have an object-based assertion. And in here further we have got verify and assert. So verify allows us to execute the test even if a step fails. Whereas assert allows us to execute the test but will halt the execution if the step will fail. So let's write down the login logout test scenario, and this time we will be using some validations. We will be putting down our own assertions. So open the application, click on the My Account link, type username, type password, click on the sign in button, verify my account information text on the page, verify presence of log off link on the page, click log off link, click continue button. So let's see recording of this test case scenario. How do we record it? So let's open the Firefox browser and go to the application. Please pay attention and just concentrate on what I'm doing on my screen, and then you can repeat it. So open the website, launch Selenium IDE. It launches by default in the recording mode. Click on the My Account link. Provide the email address. Password. Click on the sign in button. Here we need to verify two things: presence of text and the availability of the log off link. So we will click here, search the command verify text, select button to verify text on a particular object, highlight it, select the text. Then we will need to verify element present, select log off. Then we are going to click on the log off link, the continue button, and our script is completed. We'll stop the test case execution. We will say file, save test case, and say login, log out with verify. So let's run this program. So as you could see, everything has passed successfully, and you could see the difference between the commands when verify command passed and the normal command executed. Now let's give a bad value so that we know that the execution will fail. In here you will see that even though the verify command has failed, it still allowed the test case to further execute. If you go to the log, you will find out that the execution failed because my account information did not match my account, whatever the bad text we have given. Now I'm going to save this test case with another name, and I'm going to change the command to assert. So here instead of verify, let me just use assert text. That's it, and rest of the steps are going to be common. And let me make it pass first, and then I will fail it. So executing the test. So everything has passed. Now let's try to fail the test. So as this test scenario failed, you could see that the script execution halted, and we are just on the my account information page because we could not validate presence of this text. So this time we have steps in white, in red, and in green. So that is the behavior of assert text. So generally speaking, the steps which need stringent validation, those steps should be asserted. For example, in our test scenario, if we want to change the profile or change password, or if we want to buy a product, etc., we have to assert the login action, because if login has not been done, then there is no point in continuing with the test scenario. I hope this is clear to you guys. Any questions about any of the things which we have discussed so far? Okay. So now let me show you the behavior of the accessor command. So when we talk about the accessor command, as I have mentioned, that accessor command allows you to store the state of the application. Also, it allows us to create variables where if, let's say, there is more than one time a data point is being used in a script, it is better to create a variable and store the value in it and use that variable often in the script. Okay. So suppose if we want to change the value associated with the variable, then we can only update the value at one place and rest at every place the value gets updated. So accessor command example is store command, and the scenario which we are going to pick is the change password scenario. So in the change password scenario, my steps are open the application, click my account link, type username, type password, click sign in button, verify my account information on the page, verify log off link on the page, click link, change my password, provide old password, provide new password, confirm new password, verify password change by verifying the message, click log off link, click continue button. So let's record this. So validate, pay attention if in case you have missed and you need to know how we have done it. So you type in the command verify text. Now I can verify text, but I should actually assert the log of link presence, because if log of link is not there, then there would be nothing which I could click upon. So as a good practice, you should assert presence of an element, and you have to select log of link. Then we click on change my account password and we provide the current password, the new password. And then I'm going to click on the continue button. Here I'm going to verify that the account information is changed. Now click on the log off link and click on the continue button, and I should actually also verify that the log off has happened. So I should add a command assert element not present, and in here I should search for the log of link. The test case the test case recording is completed, so save it. Now wherever our data is passed, for that we are going to create three variables. So we are going to right click and insert command, and the command we are going to use is the store command, where the target would be the data and the value would be the value would be the variable name. Then the second variable target is data. Now understand that the password is changed now. So your password this time you have to type in what will be the new password which you gave the last time when you recorded the script. Now instead of data being passed to the command which types the username, we say $username. Then for the password we say dollar curly brace password curly brace ends, and wherever we are passing the new password we have to say dollar curly brace new password and curly brace ends. So this is how you represent the data points or for the variables which we have created. Now let's try and run this program. So it has been executed successfully. So the store commands helps you create variable to store the data which is used more than once in the script, so that if there is for any reason change in the data point, then only change at one place is required. Is this clear? So you have to store the variable at the beginning of the script always. You can store it anywhere, Harry, just before you are going to use it. Beginning of the script is helpful, then you don't have to, scroll the script that where actually the store command is used. Okay, so now we are going to talk about how we can create a test suite. What is a test suite? A test suite is a collection of independent test cases put together for execution. So let's see how we can create a test suite with Selenium IDE. So launch IDE. Let me just stop the recording. Here, just go to File, say New Test Suite. Now right click on this test case and say Add Test Case, or you can also go to File and say Add Test Case and add a few test cases which you want to use. Remove this untitled one. So this is the test suite created with these three test cases. Go to File, say Save Test Suite and provide a name to this test suite. Now, to execute all the test cases in a test suite, you have to click on this play icon, which will play the entire test suite. If you click on this play icon, this will play only the current test case, where this will play the entire test case. Now during the execution, you can halt the execution by clicking on this play pause button. And then when you do that, this blue arrow will get highlighted, which will allow you to execute the step one by one. So all the three cases in here got failed. Let's have a look for the reason of the same. Just 1 second. Let me just see. What did we do with change password? Oh, sorry. So there was this issue here. Hmm. So just give me a time. I'll correct it, and then will be able to run the test case. Um, I think I did some mistake with the change password, so I'll just create quickly a new new test scenario, and we will be using that new user. Sorry. So we have a user. Just 1 second. Okay, so got a test, got a user. So I'm going to make some changes in the script for the user to be used properly. So now let's take some test scenarios. So let's create a new test suite. Right click, add test case. So these are the test cases which I have taken. Press Ctrl S to save this test suite. Now click on this play icon to execute the entire test suite. Now we will see that out of the 3 test cases which we have created, 2 test cases have passed and 1 have failed. But if you look at this run section, you will see that runs are 3. The 3 in here means the total number of runs, whereas 1 fail means 1 has failed. Okay? Harry, can you see now what I'm typing? So this is what a test suite is. At the back end, the test suite would look like this. So a test suite at the back end looks like an HTML file with a single column where each of the test cases are hyperlinked. Okay? Is this clear? Any questions? Any one of you? Okay, then we will take a break. And after the break, we will start discussing the locators which are available to us in Selenium, which we spoke about yesterday, but we will see how that are used to create the objects. So I'll see you guys in next 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, resuming the session. Sorry about that for that echo. So, resuming the session, let's try and understand the locators on selenium. So, yesterday we spoke about the different HTML technologies which are available: HTML, XML, XPath, CSS, and DOM. And I gave you guys a link to read. Anyone get a chance to read that link? Has anyone read that link? If not, I'm going to share the link again. I just want you guys to spend around 5 minutes or so and just read that link so that few things comparatively becomes easier when I talk about it. So I'm sharing the link with all of you. Please just read it for 5 minutes. So did you guys read it or do you need still more time? Have you read few things? Okay. So we have learned, I hope you have learned that locators in Selenium are basically by ID, by name, by CSS, by DOM, and by XPath, right? This you must have read, broadly speaking. By ID, by name, by CSS, DOM, and XPath. These were the categories which were shown. So locator by ID, by name, by XPath, by link text, by DOM, and by CSS. Now, from where these values come? So let's talk about the ID or the name. So yesterday we spoke about HTML. HTML means hypertext markup language, and all our web pages are created using this language. So the HTML objects which we create have got HTML tag followed by some properties and values. And then the HTML tag closes. This is generally how the objects are created, which we see on the screen. Now, one of the property value of any HTML object could be an ID property or a name property. And it is this property using which we identify the object. And if a web application is supposed to be W3 compliant, then it is enforced that each object should have ID or name property. But generally speaking, it is not true. So that's why whenever we are doing automation or if we have a plan to do automation, we always say that the developers are the stakeholders in automation, because if they have prior knowledge, you can tell them to create a website in certain manner so that it becomes comparatively easier for you to automate. Because ID and name are one of the fastest way and cleanest way to identify an object. So let's go to the My Account page and right click on it and say View Page Source. Here, press Ctrl F and search for email underscore address. You will find this HTML available. Then just below it, you have the password. And you have got the sign in button. Okay? Clear? So if you look at the HTML, are you able to recognize this name equal to email address? Do you see this? Name is password and ID is TDB5. And these are all input elements. The last one is a button. And this is what we see on screen. So let's go to the Selenium test scenario for login logout. Here. Do you see this name equal to email address, name equal to password, ID equal to TDB5? Do you all see this? So do you understand from where this information is coming? Harry and Kathy, are you guys able to understand from where this information is being fetched? Okay, good. So let's try to move on to the X path. Generally speaking, if an object doesn't have an ID or name property, we tend to go and use X path. Okay? So what is an X path? For this, I will like to give you an example. It is the path traversed to reach an object in a XML document. Okay? For example, an example of an XML document is so this is one, and similarly you can have further nodes and your XML is closed. Now if I have to reach a particular node, let's say this, you have to create a path. Now path could be absolute, that is from the root node, or the path could be relative, that is from a identified from an anchor node. Okay, so some node will be taken as an anchor, and from there we will create a relative path. An example of this is, let's say you want to have a party in your house and you want to invite your office colleagues. How do you give address to your colleagues? Do you say like house number 4197, Levington Street, London, UK? Do you say like this if you are trying to invite your office colleagues to your house party? No, right? You generally tell them thinking that most of them live in the same area, city. You just generally tell them come to Levington Street and maybe take a right from a very famous point, and then 4 blocks from there is your house, right? This is how you generally tell to your friends. Is this correct? So that's a relative path because you have made it relative to a famous joint in a Levington Street, maybe a famous hotel or maybe a shop, okay? So that's a relative path. And then you have got absolute path. So the first example was of generally an absolute path. For example, you give this address to when you want to deliver a stuff somewhere, okay? When you want to deliver or get a courier from somewhere. Generally, then it is an absolute path. And let's say you want to get a courier delivered from outside the country, then you have to also give the country name. So that's a very major difference, and keep this example in mind. It will always help you, this analogy. So using that, we create XPaths. So how do we create XPaths for an HTML object? So to create an XPath for an HTML, we look at the HTML document as if it is a XML document. Okay. So we look at an HTML document as if it is an XML document, and then we traverse and create the path. Okay. So let's take the same example of our the small HTML code snippet and create an HTML around it. So let's say we say HTML, then you have got the body tag, then you have got a form tag, and here we provide the HTML. Okay, so if I want to create an XPath for the above, I can go ahead and create a relative XPath, or I can create an absolute XPath. Let's say I want to create an XPath for email address. So I will be saying HTML body form, since this is only one form, input @name equal to email underscore address. This is an absolute XPath. Whereas a relative XPath would be just input @name equal to email underscore address. So find all the input tags and then come to the input tag which has got the name property email address. So this is a relative XPath, the above is an absolute XPath. See the difference of the slashes as well, single slash, double slash. Okay. In Selenium IDE, during the time when we record a script, we can identify the same object using different locator values. See this. Here it is the name property. We can further see it as a XPath also. Or if you want, as CSS or DOM also. Okay. So I can fetch the XPath property while the time I'm recording and understand that every object which we fetch in IDE can be identified using more than one locator value. Okay. So there are multiple locators available for an object. So how Selenium basically picks a locator which makes the object identification the fastest. Do you all understand this? Good. Now we have got the CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheets. So let's say, going back to the same example, when you tell the person that your house is 4 blocks away, maybe you would also like to tell them, and the house which has got 2 floors and has got a yellow outer yellow wall color and has got a green boundary. So what is you have done? You have trying to provide some specification based on the looks, right? You are trying to specify your house so that identification becomes easy based upon how it looks like. So cascading style sheets are basically created to provide styling to your HTML pages and to create a style which is common. For example, if you look at this web application, all the buttons are this light blue, pale blue current color with this round corners. Do you see this? So this is because of the CSS being used. So CSS is also one of the ways used to identify an element. For example, if we look at, again, let me just record the script. Here, I can identify the element using the CSS property as well. So CSS is equal to input name equal to email underscore address. That's another way of identifying the same element. Or CSS is equal to hash tdb5. This is used when the object has an ID property, when we are using any other property than ID. Now you need to understand whether it is CSS or XML. We have to understand the backend HTML to create these properties, right? Because that is only because this is only what which is getting used. Is this clear? And the last is the document object model. Document object model says that look at a web page as if it is a tree. So where you have got a parent node, which is your or root node HTML, followed by the child nodes, which can have further child nodes. Now You basically try and identify an element based upon a hierarchy. For example, you would have said document dot form1 dot email underscore address, or document dot form1 dot tdb5. These are used to identify the element based upon the hierarchy. Document being the parent element, dot form the child element, email address the child element further. Here, see this document login dot element 1. So how do we read this? Document is the HTML, represents the HTML. Login is the form and element. So the form, the login, which is the form element, in that search the or return the second element, considering the indexing starts from 0. So let's have a look at the backend HTML to see if we can identify the element like this. So I'm going to search for login. So login is the name of the form, as you guys can see. The first element in here is table. The second element available to us in here is this input element. Okay. So login is the form name. So using this we are able to search for the element. Okay. So that's how document object model is used. Is this clear? Do you all understand what we are discussing in here, the locators? Okay, now if you actually go back and look at the document again, which I asked you guys to read, it will make a lot more sense. So do that. Please try to do that immediately or maybe tomorrow. See, locators is one of the most important concept and the most important concept as far as interview is also concerned. And in out of the all the locators I've spoken about, XPath is actually the most important one. So you will see that they have also taken a code snippet, and using this code snippet they have tried to show you how you can identify the element by ID, name, XPath, link text, DOM, CSS. Okay. So now take a pen and a paper and read through this example and try to write down the locators which is getting created using this. There is another very important link which I want you guys to read about XPath, which is known as XPath Access. Extremely important. Read about it. If you have any questions, mail me. But this is a very nicely written article and extremely helpful. So read it. I'm sure you will be able to understand it. Basically, what XPath Access talks about is that there are further ways to identify an element using an XPath. You can identify an element using its ancestor property, descendant property, sibling property, parent property, preceding property, self property. So I can create the XPath using XPath access. So what does it mean? How is it created? So read about it. Okay, what is the syntax? So you have to understand that basically when we look at an HTML document, we we can we should have a hierarchy created in our mindset. Okay, that they all are related to each other in one way or the another, and then we are able to use this XPath access in a better manner. Which one is better to use, absolute or relative? Relative is always better, always better. because there are the chances that if you are using absolute, your script will fail is higher. The reason being, let's say if a new element introduced, okay, if a new house comes up and you have told that absolute path, okay, the exact path, the absolute path from the root node, so people will not be able to find your house because new houses has been introduced now. But if you give a relative path, still the chances are higher that your path would not have been hampered. So absolute path is generally not used. We always go for relative paths because the chances that they will get changed because the application has undergone change is comparatively less. Clear? So you always use relative URLs, you always use relative paths to your files, and you always use relative paths to your XPath. So the assignment for you guys is for today, and this is a very important assignment. It's a must to be done. So assignment is create a locator sheet for the registration page of the application. Example as shown in Excel sheet. So I'll be creating a sample for you and then you will have to complete it. Record and playback scenario for change profile. Create a test suite with the following scenarios by product, change profile and register user. So these are the assignments you guys have to do for today. Now locator, for that open an Excel sheet, create an Excel sheet. In the first column say object name. So you give an object name, object type, then you say ID, name, XPath, CSS, DOM. So object name, let's say email. Object type, it's an input of type text. ID property not available. Name, yes. Email underscore address. XPath, yes. So create the XPath which you see available. So you can use the Selenium IDE and try to read these properties for every element. It's almost available. Okay. Then CSS is equal to input name equal to email underscore address, and then you have got the document object model available. So document.login.elements. Okay. So this is a sample sheet. I'll share this with you. Fill this sheet for rest of the elements you see on the registration page. So registration page is this page. Example here, it would be first name. It's also an input of type text. You will find that the ID is not available. This is name equal to first name. Here you will be writing down the XPath as input @name equal to first name. Similarly for CSS and so on and so forth. Okay. Clear to you guys? How do you create these locator sheet? So when you will be doing it, record this, and at the time of recording use that drop down to identify and see the different locator values provided for the same element and populate that information in this sheet. Make sense? Great. Now what are the limitations of Selenium IDE? The limitations of Selenium IDE are you cannot run the Selenium IDE scenarios on any other browser than the Firefox browser. Okay, that's one of the limitations. Then what is the next limitation? You cannot write on full-fledged test automation scenarios. Okay, you cannot talk to any database. You cannot use conditional statement, looping statements. You cannot talk to external databases. You cannot generate effective reportings, cannot log bugs using IDE. So you have to understand that IDE was created just for recording and playback to help you aid in automation. It was never created as a solution for automation. So it should not be looked upon like that. So these are generally the IDE with limitations with the IDE. Now from next week, we will be starting with Java as a programming language. So for that, I would request you guys to set up your system by downloading the latest version of Java, JDK, and Eclipse Kepler version. So Eclipse is the IDE which we will be using to write down the Java programs. So you need to download and install the Java JDK. So choose the operating system, accept the license agreement, and choose which operating system you guys have, and accordingly download Java JDK on your system, download and install. And Eclipse you have to download. It doesn't get installed on the system, so you have to download the Eclipse Kepler version, because we will be using this to write down our scenarios. The very first 4.3.2, the standard, this one you have to download on your system. Okay, and prepare your system so that from next week when we start learning Java, you guys are ready. Is this clear? The activity to be done this week? So you guys have enough time. We will be meeting your Monday evening, right? So you guys have the weekend. Please utilize it to cover up the concepts which we have learned in IDE, and to do your assignments and send it to me for evaluation. You have to send your assignments to the course email address, which is info@5elementslearning.com, and please make your system ready for from with the software which I have just told you guys. Okay, so I hope you guys are learning well. If in any case you have any question or if you have any feedback, feel free to share that anytime. Okay, so please do let me know if you are facing any challenges or if you want something to be improved. I will surely work upon it. Okay then, thanks a lot everyone. I hope you all have a very good weekend. Take care. Bye everyone.